All right, so let's get into the other kind of big topic of the week. Not kind of. It was the big topic, specifically in college football, and it pertains to the Pac-12. And for people who didn't see it, let me kind of give you a little rundown, explain what's going on, and then explain why. I got a lot to say. Let me just put it to you this way. And very simply, what you need to know is basically this, is that, first of all, Pac-12, may have heard of them, college football, USC, Oregon, Fight On, Victory, all that stuff, right? Pac-12 football players, a group of them at schools across the conference, have basically banded together and kind of given an ultimatum to the conference itself. Essentially, they have certain demands that they want. They have certain demands that they are expecting before they take the field again to represent their university. And we'll get into the demands in a second, but essentially it's very simply this, is they want to be protected, they want to feel safe, they want economic advantages to what is going on in the conference, and they put together this list of demands. This report starts circulating, I guess it was Saturday afternoon into Saturday evening. The list of demands comes out on Sunday morning, and we have ourselves a little showdown at the OK Corral between players and administrators and the powers that be in the Pac-12. And let me just say this. First of all, I think it's very admirable. I'm not against protesting. I'm not against standing up for what you believe is right. I'm not against trying to better things for yourself or for others involved. But what I will also say, and I said this on Twitter, is a lot of these demands are the equivalent of me walking into a bank, withdrawing $1,000 from the ATM, and demanding that instead of getting $100 bills, $50 bills, and $20 bills, that I be paid in $200 bills and $30 bills and $7 bills. I can demand everything I want. I can yell and scream at the teller and get, but sometimes like demands are just impossible. Like they can't be met. Like it doesn't feasibly exist. And so let's get into what the demands are, why, again, admirable in some ways, unrealistic in others, but I'm not going to go through every demand, but essentially what they are is in a couple different categories. One, they want some health and safety protocols surrounding COVID, right? They want to make sure that they're not going to lose their scholarships if they elect to opt out of this season. Okay, think that's probably pretty easy to handle. Most other conferences have already said that's not an issue. I don't believe the Pac-12 has officially said anything yet, but I think it's pretty safe to assume that is not going to be an issue, okay? Every other conference, the SEC, the Big Ten has already said it. Pac-12, I'm sure if they haven't officially said it, it's on the way. They don't want to sign a COVID protocol protecting the university from lawsuit in case something happens. Okay, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. Many of you are returning to offices. I think most people have to sign something that says that whatever entity cannot be held liable. I know as we get comfortable going back to stadiums, there's probably going to be some verbiage on the ticket that if you catch COVID at a game, you can't sue the team, you can't sue the NFL, you can't sue Major League Baseball, whatever. There's some other stuff. There's some racial inequality stuff. I think that's probably pretty easy to handle. It sounds like, we want some committees formed. We want some conversations started. Okay, I get it. Again, not against using your platform for good. Where some of it becomes a little sticky is some of the economic stuff. So first of all, players say that they want a 50% revenue share with the conference and college sports in general. And basically, if the Pac-12 makes $100 million, the players in men's and women's college, or men's football, obviously men's football and men's college basketball, they want 50% of that revenue. They also want to make sure that no other sports are cut, okay? Stanford just cut 11 sports. They don't want any more sports cut, and their idea is to take endowments from different parts of the university and basically use that to fund sports that may lose money from this whole situation. And then there's some other stuff. There's some little stuff. One important piece is name, image, likeness. And let me just, for people who haven't heard me give this spiel, let me just do it very, very, very briefly. I am in favor of name, image, likeness. I've been that way since this legislation first started about a year and a half ago, whatever it was. And it's for one very simple reason. And I've said it on this show, and for those of you who have heard me say it, I apologize, but let me be very brief. I use my name, image, and likeness to my benefit, right? For people who don't know, when I have a sponsorship agreement with my bookie, or a sponsorship agreement with alcohol or CBD, or use this promo code Torres for 10% off, that is me using my name, image, and likeness. And so I don't think it's fair for me to sit up on a pedestal and say, well, I should be able to do that, but Trevor Lawrence and Zion and Tyrese Maxey should not be able to. I think name, image, and likeness is a good thing. That's one of the Pac-12's requests. I have no problems with it. I will also say that in general, and I've said this a million times, so I will be brief, I also think that 99.9% of college athletes have it very good. If you're a student athlete, if you're a scholarship athlete in a major university, you get free tuition, room and board, which is housing. And in some of these Pac-12 cities, Los Angeles, Berkeley, Palo Alto, that is no small deal. You get unlimited food. You get health care from some of the best universities in America. USC Health Center is one of the best health centers in the world. Not sure if you heard, Stanford's pretty good. Cal's pretty good. So I do believe players should get more. I do believe the higher earning athletes, or the players that can actually monetize off their name, image, and likeness, should get more. But I also do not believe that 99.9% of athletes in college sports have it bad. As a matter of fact, almost all college athletes don't make any money for the university. I'm not just talking about golfers, swimmers, tennis players, but most college football players don't make money for the university either, okay? Cal, the backup offensive tackle at Cal, he's basically stealing money from that university in terms of what they're giving him relative to what they're getting back. But back to the Pac-12 stuff, and back to why, again, I'm not against players using their voices. I'm not against players, wanting more. But some of it is just absurd. Some of it is just absolutely absurd. And so let me get into it. So first of all, the 50-50 revenue split, okay? We're going to get into that in a second. But I think part of this that has to be discussed is sometimes in life, like timing. What's the old saying? Timing is everything, and nuance is everything, and context is everything. I don't know that this is the conversation that should be being had at this particular moment in time. And it's really funny because I always kind of felt like, okay, at some point, something like this is going to come up. At some point, the players are going to feel like they're being exploited. I don't necessarily feel the same way. And they're just going to say, I'm not showing up. I want more. I deserve more. Give me more, or I'm not playing. I will say this, though. I do not know that showing up in the middle of a pandemic, when schools are hemorrhaging money, when athletic departments are hemorrhaging money, and people are losing their actual jobs, I don't know that that's the time that you should be talking about revenue splits and revenue sharing. I'll give you an example. I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but part of this is schools are starting to cut non-revenue sports, right? So Stanford cut 11 sports the other day. It sucks. I feel bad. Hundreds of athletes lost their opportunity to compete. Coaches lost their jobs. But there was a reason that the school cut those sports. And the reason was very simply this. It was because Stanford Athletics was projecting to lose $70 million in the 2020 fiscal year, 2020 into 2021. So, don't know if right now is the exact time that we should be talking about revenue sharing, because I'm not great at math. I'm really math is not my strong suit. But what is 50% of negative 70 million? Not good at math. Not good at math. I don't think it's very much, though. And it's the same at UCLA, which lost $20 million on athletics last year. You know why they lost $20 million on athletics? Because the football team stunk and nobody went to the games. That's why that's why UCLA athletics is in a deficit, because you didn't make any money. So to split money, you got to make money. So that's one. Two, there's another important reason why this little 50-50 rev split doesn't really make sense. Now I'm just dropping big terms like rev split. The reason 50-50 rev split doesn't make sense, take a guess. It also breaks federal law. What do I mean by that? There's a federal law called Title IX, okay? There's a federal law called Title IX where you cannot be discriminated against based on your sex, based on your sexual, your natural sex. Like a female cannot be targeted or discriminated against based on her sex relative to a male. That is why, by the way, we have so many women's sports on our campuses that don't make money. That's not disrespectful. My sister was a college athlete. I am glad that females are getting opportunities. But the bottom line is, I can count on one hand the number of women's athletic programs in the country that actually make any money. It's UConn women's basketball, maybe Baylor. It's not very many, right? It's not very many. And so you can't sit here and talk about this conversation of 50-50 rev split because you're breaking federal law. By law, females have to have the same opportunity as males. Again, that's why we have women's swimming and diving, women's tennis, women's golf on all these campuses. Because you have to give the same number of opportunities to females as males. And so guess what? If you start paying males to play college sports in a 50-50 rev split where, oh, by the way, you're actually making money, which most of these Pac-12 schools aren't and certainly won't in a pandemic, you got to pay the females too. And if the females aren't making money, how are you going to pay them? And if you're giving so much money to the athletes, guess what's going to happen? If now all of a sudden you got to split 50% of revenue with your football team and your basketball team, the money's got to come from somewhere. And you're not going to be able to afford the women's to pay all the women's athletes. And guess what? You're probably going to have to cut a whole bunch of non-revenue sports, both the men's programs and the women's programs. So again, unless you're ready to get federal law rewritten, I don't know how this 50-50 rev split happens. 3, finally, what I would add is this. See, the great thing about this proposal by these Pac-12 players, they've thought of everything, okay? So their proposal is, well, the way that we save these programs that are losing money, the way that we cut into this deficit is we're just going to take money from other parts of the university, okay? So basically they reference the endowment at Stanford, okay? And Stanford, again, they cut 11 sports, but their argument, these players' arguments is, well, Stanford just has a $27 billion endowment, so we just take a little $70 million from there, a little $22 million from there, and then we'll just pay it off and we'll keep our women's programs going. Well, first of all, you're already breaking federal law by paying the male athletes but not the female athletes. Okay, so that's one. But let's move past the whole federal law thing being broken, right? Like let's just move past that, going to the whole Supreme Court to get laws changed and all that stuff, okay? You can't just take money from other parts of the university that aren't athletic department fund. Like this is the part that I was talking about going in and demanding that I get paid in $200 bills and $7 bills. It can't happen. It doesn't exist. You think that like David Shaw, the football coach at Stanford, just has the authority to say, well, guess what? We're going to pay my guys. So, hey, president of the school, that $100 million that was earmarked for a new chemistry program, we're gonna scratch that chemistry building, and we're just gonna give it to all the Olympic sports so that they can keep going, so that nobody loses their opportunity. You think David Shaw has that ability? You think the athletic director at Stanford has that ability? No. First of all, the most basic understanding of college endowment is this: most endowments go to something really specific, right? You graduate from the Stanford, medical department. You give money to build the next, like I said, endocrinology, ward or whatever. I don't even know what endocrinology is, but it sounds fancy. That sounds like something a Stanford alum would give money to the school for to get them to build, right? So first of all, most people give money to very specific things. And I know that the Stanford football players and the Cal football players and the Oregon football players think that only people care about them. But you can't just take money that's earmarked for other things and just, we were going to build a new chemistry building, but, we got to keep that women's rowing team afloat. So let's take that $70 million and let's figure out a way and screw chemistry. And that's the other thing, by the way. So, at some point, the money still has to come from somewhere. And so now what these football players are essentially saying is, pay us, use money from somewhere else in the university to pay for the women's swimming and diving team, but that money still has to come from somewhere. So that means that chemistry scholarships are not being filled. A new chemistry building is not being built. A new dorm is not being built, so you can't have as many students enroll in campus. The money still has to come from somewhere, and somebody is still getting screwed. And I really wish it wasn't the college football players. I wish they got more. And I really wish it wasn't the athletes that had their sports cut. That sucks. I hate it. As I said, my sister was, and I'm all fired up and I'm yelling and screaming, I'm out of breath. But my sister was a college athlete. I don't want opportunities taken away from females. I don't want opportunities taken away from male golfers and tennis players and wrestlers and track and field guys. But we have to use common sense here. And so to me, I am just so over this conversation. I'm so over college athletes complaining about how hard they have it when, as I've said 100 times, 99.9% of them have it good. And we spend so much time focusing on Trevor Lawrence, so much time focusing on Zion Williamson, so much time focusing on whoever, that the vast majority of them are stealing money from the school. They really are. And I'm almost at the point now, and I know there's no way this could happen. I would love for Larry Scott to just throw his you-know-what on the table and say, okay, all right, guys, let's talk. First of all, a couple things. One, I'll tell you what, we'll give you a salary. We'll give you that 50-50 rev split. But in that 50-50 rev split, you got to give up your scholarship. We're not paying for your housing. We're not paying for your food. We're not paying for anything. But you can get that 50-50 rev split. I wonder how many guys would actually take advantage of that. Forget the fact that there are kids in the Mountain West right now that would kill to play in the Pac-12. There are kids in FCS schools that would kill to play in the Pac-12. JUCO kids that would kill for the opportunity to play at UCLA, USC, whatever. So let's put that aside. I would love to see Larry Scott just be like, dude, okay, but the money's got to come from somewhere. I know in your perfect world I'm just going to take $70 million from the chemistry lab and put it towards all these other sports, but that's not how it works. So let's say we can get that federal law changed, and here's the deal. We will pay you, but you got to pay for all your stuff. I wonder how many people would take that. I wonder how many parents who have spent thousands, if not tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, on private coaches, on travel teams, on summer ball. I wonder how excited, on 7-on-7 passing camps. I wonder how excited they would be for their kids to now have to pay for their own college again. In the Pac-12 specifically, where 2 schools are based in the Bay Area, the most expensive city in America, and 2 more are based in LA, which is pretty darn expensive itself. I would love to see how all that works out. And that doesn't even include, by the way, the idea of if you're getting paid, now you have responsibilities as an employee, and that brings up a whole other can of worms, which is a lot of other things that aren't being talked about. Like the players just want all the benefit with none of the drawback. Okay, you want to get paid? You want rev split? Okay. 1, pay for your housing, tuition, and all that stuff. 2, what happens if revenue goes down? Do you pay some of that back? What happens if we start 0-4 and we can't sell tickets anymore? Am I allowed to fire you? Am I allowed to send you? Like, I'm not saying athletes don't deserve more, but I am so tired of these kids. And it's not even the kids, and part of it is the media too. Part of it is people in my space encouraging them. Oh, you have it so tough. Oh, life is so hard. Oh, no, go to a college campus. Go see how a UCLA football player lives. UCLA stinks, by the way. They're terrible, and they're treated like kings. I wish the media would call a spade and be real. They won't. Everyone's afraid. Nobody wants backlash on Twitter. It's ridiculous. But I'm all fired up. I want to get to basketball because basketball is, I'm smiling over basketball. This is just making me mad. But this idea that these Pac-12 kids, their life is so tough. Go pay for tuition and housing in Berkeley. See how it goes. Back up offensive tackle. You stink. You stink. You stink. You're not good. You're stealing money from that school. And by the way, that degree is probably going to make you 10 times what you're going to get playing college football within a couple years of being out of school. Pac-12 thing's got me all fired up, man. I'm all stressed, but I do want to talk some basketball.